Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, the astonishing growth of team time trialling on Zwift. How lockdown Zwifting has changed one tri-coach's training methods permanently. And how the Tour for All race series has done more for women's cycling than anything else, says the winner. Well, a couple of weeks break, and that's given us time to reflect on some of the changes that lockdown cycling has brought and which of those may stick around. We're in reflective mood this week. You feeling reflective, Shane? I'd like you to be. G'day, mate.
With no hair on top of my head, some would say my head is the reflective thing on me. But yes, it's been a long time indoors. It really has. But yeah, lots to talk about this week. I'm keen to get stuck into it.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're alive and well, because last time I saw your avatar, it was lying in a pool of blood on a Los Santos highway, and we'll talk more about that later. Nathan, yo, dude, you're always reflective. You be like a mirror. You're so reflective. How you doing, fella?
I'm doing good. I don't know. Lately, I've been so dang busy. I'm having a moment to sit, except for this week, finally. So, yeah, time to sit down with you guys and maybe get on with it. So, liking it.
Well, that's what we're here for. Well, I've reflected, and thanks to all the stick I've received in various forums, most of it affectionate, well, all of it affectionate and good-natured, I have to say, but it was stick nonetheless. I have concluded after much reflection, I am giving up the Tron bike.
What?
Yeah, that horse has bolted. The Tron train has left the station. My Tron ship has sailed. Having completely failed to register for it, despite having done millions of meters on Zwift, I've decided I'm just not going to register for it. It's gone. It's over. I don't need it.
Denial. That's all that is. That's all. You'll be back. You'll be clicking on that secretly one night. You'll wake up in a sweat. You'll need that glowing Tron bike. We all have to have it. A true Zwifter has to want the Tron bike. Simon, I'm disappointed.
Well, I can understand your disappointment. I mean, have you never done this, Nathan? It's like you know you should have done something and then you hadn't done it, and then you think, oh well, I just can't be bothered to do it. Actually,
Well, only the thing is that you're already doing the thing that does the thing, except you have to click a button. So, like, it's not like you're not getting more climbing. Like, eventually you'll get the Tron bike. I mean, like,
no, I know,
like,
but the thing,
10 years from now, Simon, you'll have the Tron bike if you just register. Like, you just.
No, but
this is not very
button.
transparent. We're talking about being reflective. We need some transparency here now. Like, well, I guess this is transparent. You're really sharing your heart of wanting to give up, but come on.
Well, no, it's just like that thing. I tell you what it's like, actually. I don't know whether you've ever done a very, very long alpine climb or any kind of long climb, actually. And then maybe 2/3 of the way up the climb, the gods or whoever hydroformed the mountains decide to put in a 2-mile descent, right? And you've done all that climbing and then suddenly you're going downhill. That's how I feel about the Tron bike. I know. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And maybe I'll reflect on it a little further.
Yeah, that analogy makes no sense to me at all. I don't understand.
He's descending faster into climbing the Tron bike again. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, yeah. Descending
okay,
fun.
enough of that. Enough of that. I think I'm tying myself in knots here. Enough of that. All right. One of the other reasons, apart from pause for reflection, for us to have a little break was to wait for the latest Zwift update to drop, and drop it has, and it is packed. Race results in meetups. How good is that, fellas? I mean, a pretty basic piece of functionality, actually, Shane, but very, very welcome.
Game changer, full stop. I love meetups. They're becoming, well, initially I ignored them because I thought, who would really want to do that? And then when the COVID times came around, a lot of people were using them. They started adding more and more features. And now we have what we've always wanted. We have race results. And what people are going to do with this is going to be amazing. You saw the other day that I did a quick race with my wife, Veronica, a 500-meter meetup. We could do these and have a results sheet. We could have sprint races. We can have longer. This is, game changer. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what this is beginning to do, Nathan, is it's making meetups into what we've always wanted, really, which is to be able to put on our own events. I mean, or as the features increase, that's what it's becoming. I mean, what immediate use do you see this being put to, apart from the obvious of knowing who's won, obviously, which is kind of useful?
Yeah, so we were doing a lot of broadcasts around just kind of like fun little games that people were playing or races that people were doing on their own, and this obviously gives people the ability just to go and have a race with whoever they want anytime that they want, especially with their clubs. So I think there's lots of clubs that are out there that just kind of want to race each other. Like I've got coached athletes going on 2 years ago that were like, well, can't we just like, and they were like trying to do this all on their own, and now just being able to schedule it. The only thing is like, I run a ride or two, and I just think there would be so many more people riding Zwift that are even in my circles that I want to encourage to join my meetups, who just can't be bothered following me, downloading the app, da 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 da. If I had a URL there and other people were clicking that URL and they knew other people were clicking the URL who are a part of that club, they would be so encouraged to download Zwift and to get in that meetup, because they know all they had to do was click that URL if they had everything else set up to get into that event. But then there's like all that extra that comes in. So I just think that URL is so important. I don't mean to be a downer here, because this is great. I just really think we need that URL.
They are working on a version of a shareable URL. That is known. They are working on a version. They've got some concerns about it, which, to my detriment, I can't remember what those concerns are. But actually, when I saw them, I thought, actually, yes, I can see why that is a concern. I think it was about capacity. If you have a shareable URL, you know, if like 1 million people click on it, there's going to be 999,900 and whatever the
100 people. First 100 people get in.
Yeah. Well, that's all you'd have to say, wouldn't you? On the you know, if you were sharing the link, click on this, and if you're not in the first 100, you don't get in. But anyway, they are definitely working on that for sure. But I agree with you, and it's something the three of us have said for some considerable time. Okay, well, there's much more goodness for meetups in this update. If you're in a meetup with your club mates or a group or mates or whatever, generally what Zwifters call a private meetup, now only you and those mates see the messages in the group. That's really great because, again, it's going to kind of aid group communication, make the whole thing more cohesive. And it also means that private meetups don't get cluttered up with millions of messages from the Zwift wider world, which was how it was. Good improvement, Shane, I think, this one.
Yeah, for sure. It's just another one of the little polishing additions they've made to meetups recently. I don't want to hear about what John had for dinner or what Karen said down the street to her friend or anything like that, which you see in the general banter. So it all just pulls this into a little sandbox of just your own people. So now we have private chat, we have private meetups, and we have race results. Game on. I love it. This is really, really good. It's going to be used by a lot of people.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's going to help with races, I think, in private meetups as well, Nathan, because obviously it opens the door to highly targeted trash talking, which I know you do a lot of.
Yeah, there's that too, and then as well as just it isn't as confusing now, right? Like I've run some meetups and I'm running it as a leader, and then I know that people are seeing this chat that's coming through maybe, and I'm like, do I need to explain what's going on right now? Do I need to explain that person, and I kept on feeling like, and they might even be like, who are you? Like, you know what I'm like, what? Well,
she's
guy?
Karen.
Who's that?
She's Karen, and she's complaining to somebody about
But
something.
in races too, like you're like at full whatever, and then like 50 messages or something, and you're like, what? Is this relating to what? You know what I mean? Like it's not, you want to be fully attentive during a race. So of course it's going to be great to have that. And then there is I don't trash talk a whole lot. Well, on stream I do to my viewers. I don't really do it in game.
Did you hear that, Shane? He said, I don't trash talk a whole lot. Yeah. So we know your game, Nathan. Okay, and there's more, yet more. We have a new power-up, the Steamroller, no less. More on that and some of the other new things in a few moments. But first, a bit of fuss over data and privacy affecting the immensely popular WRTL race series shone a bit of a light on a movement that's gone from niche and underground to wildly popular. So I figured it was time to find out a little bit more about WRTL, and I caught up with one of its founders, Stephen Milliken. Hello, Stephen.
Hi, Simon.
There was some horribly complicated mess up to do with data and privacy and permissions, and it looked to some people as though Zwift were trying to close you down. But I made a few behind-the-scenes inquiries. I know you did too, and that just wasn't the case, was it? Really, this was not. This was more cock-up than conspiracy, I think.
Yeah, the story does have a very happy ending, but it was definitely a case that Zwift is obviously worldwide with offices, and different offices weren't talking to each other. We basically had a letter from the legal department of Zwift saying that we were. It had come to their attention that we were using personal data, and we were accessing improperly the API, and that we should respond immediately, or, and I quote, if you don't respond, we plan to take any and all actions consistent with applicable law.
Scary, yeah. But anyway, the right people have now spoken to the right people, and can you confirm it is all happily resolved?
It absolutely is, and it really once all this came to everybody's attention, and I have to say that the community absolutely got behind this, including offers from lawyers saying that they would support us for free and get to the bottom of this, which was like a huge big security blanket around us, because we realized that if we're getting threatened, then we had some backup. And absolutely, to Zwift's credit, they have completely sorted it out, and we have come out of this stronger than ever.
Oh, well, that's excellent news. Lawyers don't often work for free, so that's a bit of a thing. Now, let's just examine the success of WTRL, because, it's just, I think this kind of row brought it to more people's attentions, but it's absolutely huge, isn't it? Just give us the kind of elevator pitch, Stephen. What is it?
Well, WTRL started 2 years ago, and it was myself and a guy called Mark Swatton from R3R. We wanted a club race. We wanted to take each other on as a club race. So we organized on a Saturday afternoon to take each other on, and then we'd work out a set of results. And that was a huge success. We were only going to run for the winter, a few races, and then stop when everybody left. But on our very first race, we had over 600 people taking part. So we thought, right, this is great. And the series continued. And in the end, we finished our plan to finish in the March. But people were basically emailing us and messaging us and saying, don't finish, keep going. And so we did.
You seem to have this hit format on your hands at the moment, which I think it's a team time trial race, isn't it?
I'd enjoyed time trialing in real life, and I thought, right, there's nothing on Zwift. I made a few inquiries, and there was nobody doing anything for time trialing. So I thought, right, okay, if nobody's doing it, I'm going to invent this myself, and that's exactly what I did.
And it's a huge hit, isn't it? It's a really big hit. How does it work?
The way anybody who knows how Zwift racing started, everybody started it underneath the banner at Wytopia, and somebody said go, and away you went. We basically let everybody leave in the pen, and we sat in the pen whilst everybody left, which is a very, very eerie feeling. But thousands of people have now got used to that. I had messaged people and given them a start time and said, for instance, Vision, you will go at plus 1 minute, TT1, you will go at plus 2 minutes, etc. And then you're totally reliant on people doing that. Exactly. We started with 5 teams, and we're now over 600 teams.
Good Lord, 600 teams.
It just got to a position where it was just getting unworkable. I was there until 3 o'clock in the morning, having to get up at 5, because because of the popularity, we then got a second time slot so that we could get North America involved in it. And then we were finding there was 5, 10, 15 teams coming from North America. And then I then had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get their results done. And I was exhausted.
So what, you've now presumably got a squad of you doing?
No, not at all. We contacted by Martin, who lives in Calgary, and Martin has experience in computer programming, and he basically could see that I was chin strapped and on my knees, so he offered to help, and any offer of help would have been absolutely fantastic. So I bit his hand off to get help, and then Martin has taken it from the maximum that we were able to deal with, say 25 teams, he then completely wrote a program that could work out the results, which has evolved over time, and with all the systems in place, that we could easily deal with 5,000 teams.
Good Lord. Wow. Oh, that's very impressive. And presumably the appeal for the participants is the appeal of any team time trial, which is you working together. You know, you're only basically as strong as the weakest rider, but you've got to stay together. I guess you've got similar kind of rules to IRL, so that a minimum number of riders have to cross the line.
Yeah, the maximum amount of riders you can have in a team is 8, and exactly the same as IRL. We go for the time is taken off the 4th rider to cross the line.
Yeah.
But what we find is the fact that the most teams want to stay together. They don't want to be dropping riders off.
Yeah.
So in theory, as you do in real life, you could get guys on the front or girls on the front who exhaust themselves and then drop them off. And that's exactly what the teams who are desperate to win, that's what they do. But most of the teams, that it's all about the teamwork, and they will, whatever happens, they will stay together and cross the line as a team of 8.
It's a very good format, actually, isn't it? Because the thing about TT, like individual TT, it's just a pain fest, basically. But there's much more to team time trialing, and I absolutely see why that format's appealing.
Yeah, the tactics that have come out every single week. I mean, we use a mixture of probably about 10 courses that are ideal for it. And every week the records are broken. We have got Olympic athletes, we have got triathletes, we have got top professional racers. Even Alex Dowsett was racing this week. That's the standard.
Well, I mean, that's exciting, but I think the other appealing thing from what I've heard about it is that it grows across the board in ability range, and there's lots of events for women too.
Well, our ethos from the very start was WTRL is about 5 category racing. So to us, we tell everybody that it doesn't matter if you're a D racer or an A+ racer, you matter to us. And whenever we look at results, we don't go to the D or to the A category first. We go to the D category first and we work it out. And you'll see in any results that we have, the ladies always come first. So we are completely neutral when it comes to whoever's racing in our race. We treat everybody exactly the same.
Well, it's a hell of an accomplishment, and as I say, this kind of little storm in a teacup certainly brought you a lot more attention. Finally, Stephen, I'm guessing that even with computer wizardry from your colleague in Calgary, this is still somewhat of a drain on your time.
It is almost like a full-time job, but certainly my wife will say that she's a Zwift widow, and Martin's fiance the same. But the ironic thing is that we spend maybe, and this is no exaggeration, maybe 8 hours a day, because through our email, through our messages, we reply to every single message that we get. And especially after an event, that we will get hundreds of emails, people asking questions. And a lot of people think that we are Zwift themselves, because we'll get questions about subscriptions and kit, especially team kit. We get a lot of questions about that. But we answer all those, and we, believe it or not, still pay our Zwift subscriptions. So we are organizing for Zwift thousands of people racing, but we get paid nothing for it. It actually costs us to host our website, so it costs us to actually do it.
Well, maybe somebody at Zwift might hear this and see whether there might be some kind of remedy, or at least something to nod in your direction for the amount of time you put into it. And you're not alone. Lots of people in the community do similar things, but it does seem that this seems particularly labour intensive. Stephen, I'm thrilled to hear about it. Thrilled to hear about the success. It's got a place in my heart, the Team Time Trial. Actually, I must say, I think it's an absolutely fantastic event, and it really is about time I hauled my ass into one of your races, actually, because I love a good Team Time Trial.
Well, one of the things that we do is if a rider is looking for a team, we will find them a team, because of what we have now built up with the community on especially on Facebook, that if somebody comes and says that they want to race, we will, whatever time zone they are in the world, we will find them a team, and they will get a place on one of those teams, whatever their ability is.
That's a brilliant service. Absolutely brilliant service. I'm blown away by what you do. I know a lot of people in the community do similar things, but the organisation that goes into this must be Herculean. Lovely to chat to you, Stephen, and great to hear more about WTRL, and great to hear that little episode has been safely put to bed. Thanks very much indeed for your time.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you. It's appreciated.
Team time trialing, it's a thing. I mean, it really is a thing. And I have to say, it's kind of been under my radar, but that whole movement there is just absolutely massive. But I did find it really surprising that Stephen said that these guys who organise it, just the two of them, and hour after hour after hour they spend on it, they just get no benefit at all from Zwift. I mean, not even a free subscription. Maybe they're just too polite and British to ask. Who knows? But, the whole lockdown thing has placed a lot of emphasis on the work the community does, and now might be a good time to reflect. See what I did there? Back on this week's theme of reflection. Yeah, it's not just thrown together, this, To reflect on whether people like Stephen should be, well, paid, I guess, would be one way of saying it, or compensated in some way for what they contribute to the community. Shane?
I think it all comes down to, there's no question there's value being provided, but who is that value being provided to? And is it up to those people to then contribute to the remuneration or compensation of what's being done, the work that's being done? Maybe Zwift don't value what he's doing. Sure, it's bringing in a lot of subs. It's bringing in a lot of people staying around. That's fine. But no, I don't think anybody from Zwift may have asked him to run this league or asked him to do that work. My analogy would be I could go outside here and sweep the street all day long. I'll do a really good job. People will love it. But the city council here won't remunerate me for it. I need to get compensation from people who will be using the street. Is it valuable to them? It's just all about value. Have we brought up Strava yet, or is that's later in the?
No. We're going to talk about Strava. Don't worry, it's on the list.
I'm not taking anything away from the work that's being done. It's absolutely brilliant. I've watched a number of teams live stream their team time trial, and the tactics involved, and it is really, really good racing. It comes down to the business side of things, though, and I guess what's expected, and maybe they'll start charging subscriptions for their teams to enter in.
It's an excellent point you raised there, actually. It is a very good point you raised. The beneficiaries of the value that is provided by people like Stephen is, in fact, the people who are doing the racing. So maybe they ought to put their hands in their pockets, and there's so many of them, $2 once a year is probably enough to compensate Stephen and his colleague for a little bit of the time. Nathan, in the wider games world, are kind of community contributors or leaders, I don't know what you describe them as, but people like Stephen, do they ever get paid?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. One way is the way that Shane is talking about. They provide a value to their viewership, or to, it's mainly a lot of that is just through streaming. They have also started to, you start seeing these pop-up ads if you're a gamer, where these companies or these smaller businesses are popping up and saying, hey, do you want to learn how to play a game better? Come get coached by these people. So that's coming along too. Those are the community.
But that ad would be on the stream, obviously. Is that is not going to appear actually in the game as part of the game?
No, they actually are paying for Facebook ads and in Twitter, and they're out there doing their own things. So like what Shane was talking about, they're getting remuneration sometimes through the community that's looking for something from them. Either through streaming their content or teaching people how to play the game better, or putting on events as well. There's plenty of people that do like what WTRL are doing, and they put on their own events. I mean, that's essentially esports, really, except depending on how horizontal and how vertical the publisher is. Very horizontally motivated publishers have mainly outside event managers, and they're mainly ESL is a perfect example, right? Like you have so over and over again, you can see that. But then there's also plenty of content creators that are playing Valorant that just launched that didn't really, I don't know. They wanted to play Valorant, but they were paid plenty of money to play Valorant. So there's definitely deals that are going on from publishers directly to content creators as well. It goes both ways, 100%.
So there are existing models, and maybe these big community groups who are providing such a service to the community, maybe maybe they should be a little more entrepreneurial.
The
Very, very
larger,
interesting.
so
one.
Simon, the larger ones, the larger content creators, the larger viewership, they are directly in contact with publishers, getting paid to play new games that the publishers are launching, for sure. Like, it just makes sense.
Could be part of Swiss future. Okay, well, whilst we're on the tricky subject of money, let's deal with the Strava story. It's not a Zwift subject, well, not strictly, but all cyclists and most, if not all, Zwifters will use Strava, and Strava changed cycling like Zwift did. So we've got to talk about it. My position is this. I've been a subscriber for years. I love Strava. I got annoyed with this, as I think a lot of other people did over the past couple of years, because I do think it did badly lose its way over that period. But with the return of the founders, I think we've definitely seen a very welcome change of direction. I don't think I've ever done a bike ride since Strava was invented and not gone back and looked at it on Strava. The idea that everything on Strava should be free, or at least most of the functionality we care about at least should be free, is just batshit mad. You know, they gave away way too much early doors, and they have to start charging if it's going to develop and grow and get better as a business and make a profit. And it should make a profit, for goodness sake. What, you know, the idea that it's not profitable is just crazy. Now, that may be not the fault of the users. It may be the fault of some weird decisions by the founders, but the idea that something as significant and important to people as Strava doesn't make a profit is just mad. So I completely support them moving basically to a subscription model. Shane, I think you're with me on this.
Yeah, hang on, I've got a sound prop here. Can you hear this? That's my clickbait title of the week. Yes, everybody was on the bandwagon very early with this one. Everybody and anybody and their dog has had their say on the Strava gate. Let's call it the gate. It's the clickbait gate of Strava this week. Look, I gave it a few days because what was in the press release and what people were saying were sometimes conflicting, and I waited to see what the changes actually were. Boots on the ground, rubber to the road, mouse to the click, I guess, to see what that experience was changed. It took them 4 days to roll out the changes. So everybody who had their say early on, it was all just speculative. Anyhow, once the changes rolled out, I had two accounts side by side. My wife's account, 10 years old, 10 years of data on there. Well, she's not 10 years old. She has 10 years of data. Her account's 10 years old. 10 years of data on her account. I have the same. I signed up around the same time. 10 years of data on my account. I side by side them to see exactly what had gone on, because I have a premium account. Sorry, a subscriber account now, because premium's gone. Summit's now gone. It's now just a paid or a free, and she has a free account. What I found out is you can still do a boatload of stuff with the free account. There's only a few things that have been taken away or moved, such as the segment leaderboards and seeing your previous efforts. And look, I'm on the side of Strava on this one. Free accounts have an associated cost. There's data storage, there's data access, there's privacy and data protection they have to do for your data. There's functionality, which there is a lot of functionalities. Like the social media side of Strava, it is unchanged. You can upload, you can kudos, you can add photos, you can comment, you can share routes, you can still do tons of stuff. There's associated costs with that, and the customer support services. They also have to respond to your support tickets, even when you're not paying them a cent. So I'm with Strava on this one. I want to see them stick around for that very reason. Like, if they don't start charging, if they don't become profitable and they're not there, then what? Imagine what would fall out of the world of our little world of cycling if there was no Strava. How would Zwift go without Strava?
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
So
I know.
I support them.
You know, it's like imagining the pre-Zwift world, wasn't it? You know, I mean, it was a less rich world. And you've not mentioned this, but I use this a lot, particularly for my kind of outside gravel rides. Their route creation tool is hugely improved. I mean, massive. I mean, it was a bit rubbish before, to be honest, but it is now massively, massively improved. So we are actually seeing added value from the company. Nathan, I'm guessing the cheapskates whinging about $5 a month are also the same kind of people running Zwift on potatoes. There are people in the world. There are people in the world who, you know, expect a champagne experience for beer money, I think.
Yeah, I'm okay. So they put themselves in a tough spot because, like Shane said, you still get so much, and I'm almost like you're still getting too much. I'm kind of like, and because of that, we kind of have this in between space where like you can still do so much here that it's probably not going to see a big rise in there's just not enough leverage, you know, for there to be a purchase point. And I just feel like there should be more leverage for a purchase point in some ways, so that like the people who are whinging on and complaining about Strava not having this and that and the other thing, and all of a sudden you're saying in the last 6 months they've really turned it around. Well, maybe it's because they hired people and did things that cost money. And it's like, well, if we want to make features and people want to work to make the features you're complaining about, maybe we have to charge money for it. Like, it's
strange idea, right?
Yeah. Like, so if you want a better Strava, maybe we just got to get paid to make a better Strava. So anyway, like,
people got to eat. It's a weird thing that, you know, people, but you know, people got to eat. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm on board with, but I don't pay for Strava, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like I don't pay for Strava. They do this thing. I pay for Strava in watts, I guess. So
man, you'd be telling me you're recording this podcast on a potato next. Okay, that's the Strava thing done. Next, the new power-up, Steamroller, makes the bike you're on as fast as a road bike on tarmac, regardless of surface. And 30 seconds of steamrollering can be yours with this new power-up. Nathan, I see attacks in the jungle with this one.
Yeah, okay, so I don't know what to think about this because I haven't been bike swapping a lot. If there was a hotkey and you could stop really quickly and bike swap a lot, I'd know a lot more about how this would function, because then I would know exactly all the areas in game that I'd be using this and be like, whoa, this is Steamroller. This is Steamroller. This is Steamroller. Right now, I just know 1 or 2 places that are Steamroller because it's kind of on my mind during commentary. I wish in like some, you know, long time ago, I didn't tell John Mayfield we were swapping to TT bikes at the top of the tower on certain races so that people could just fly downhill and then swap really quickly, because he made it so you had to stop your bike so you could swap bikes. So anyways, maybe we'd still be swapping quickly or whatever, but Steamroller sounds like essentially bike swaps but on the fly in a power-up, which is kind of cool. I like the idea. I want to see it in action. I'm really excited to see how it works. And I also want to see more courses though that go along with this, because it's not like, I don't know, I guess there is Ocean Boulevard. What else? Italian Village, right by the Italian Village on your way over to the volcano. So there are opportunities here. There's opportunities.
Yeah. Short gravel sections, it will be, I can see it coming in super useful on.
Attacks will be happening like crazy because of it, I think.
Yeah. Shane, this is going to sound like looking a gift horse in the mouth and the words of an ingrate, but how many power-ups is too many? I think this brings us to 7, I think. Anyway, it's certainly one more. And I think this means you're less likely to get the really prized ones like the Aero helmet, or maybe Steamroller will become the new kind of must-have power-up. I don't know. But anyway, it's one more. Good thing, bad thing? How many power-ups is too many?
1 is too many for real racing. Come on now. There's a big debate on this one, I guess. And some race organisers can turn power-ups off. It depends. I mean, you want to run outdoors in the real world. You win races based on your skill, your tactics, your nous, your everything. But there's no e-bike switch on a real bike. You get disqualified from a race. So an aero power-up, I'm not quite into the thing. Look, if this steamroller was actually a steamroller and you got to race a steamroller, I mean, I've been riding around on GTA this week on a steamroller. It's been quite fun. Sure, that's gamification. Is flattening the road? I think this is niche within a niche within a niche, and having to explain this to somebody new, that the road surface actually has an effect and it only works in this. We're way, way down the rabbit hole for this one. I think they need to simplify the power-ups, maybe not having them at all. I don't know. It doesn't grab me. I'm sorry.
I'm quite surprised by that reaction, I must say. I mean, I don't think it's too many. I think it adds more texture and interest to the game, and that's what we're often asking for.
Race organizers have the ability now also to turn off specific power-ups.
Ooh.
So you can
throw them away. Yeah. Or of course you can throw them away as a rider.
Good point.
You can get all of them, or you get rid of just specific ones. So if you just like 3 of them, you just do Steamroller, Aero Power Up, Feather. There you go. Or So.
No, well, it adds a bit of interest and complexity, and I think we like that. Apart from Shane, who seems not to. Anyway, there we go. Okay, two other little tweaks to the game, which I think are a bit more significant than they look on their own. One, a special training plan for rookie racers, 6 weeks to get fit to race. I can't remember whether it's called that, but that's what it is, with all kinds of special drills, all of them, or most at least, specific to the particular demands of Zwift racing. And a ramp test light, again designed for people who may not want to make themselves vomit by performing a traditional FTP test. This is obviously also aimed at newbies, and it's a way of slightly more comfortably finding your FTP, if comfortable and FTP test in the same sentence is not an oxymoron. That ramp test light, basically you start from a lower place and the increments are less severe. Anyway, upshot of both of these, Shane, I think, is it's very clear HQ want to get more people racing. Now, why would they want this? Don't you think there are enough complaints in Zwift Racers Group about sandbagging already?
Racing's the best way to test yourself. It's also the best way to improve, and it also gets you a hook in. If you just go for a ride, tomorrow, no, you might not go for a ride. Or if it's, not kind of your day, I'm not going to bother. But if there's a race on and you've gotten, let's just say you got 25th in a C race, well, next time, aim for 24th, aim for 23rd. Racing's got to, this is why we all get hooked on bike racing when we first take it up. But I do like the fact that there is a shortened FTP test because, look, let's be honest, everybody wants to know their FTP without having to actually do an FTP test. I think, so you 60 minutes is traditionally what you test yourself over, a 60-minute climb. But no, we've shortened that down to a 20-minute. No, not the 20-minute test. Let's go shorter to the step test. No, let's go just shorter. Why bother? Let's just sit on the couch, throw chips at the television and come up with a number, and that's our FTP. Like, come on, people, you have to hurt for your FTP. You cannot escape the devil that is the pain of an FTP test, and it is always good training. And with a ramp test, they're designed for you to fail. That's where you succeed. There's no definition of not improved.
Easy FTP test. There speaks a time trialist, a man who worships at the altar of pain. Nathan, I think basically if you race, you become a more committed Zwifter. I think it's as simple as that, really, and maybe less likely to cancel over the summer. That's my theory.
Yeah, I think competition is addictive and trying to win. And I think, you start seeing similar people, or even if it's just your first time and you come to the line with a group of people and you're like, wow, that was like a real race, but I was in my house. Wait, I can do that anytime. I think there's like an aha moment, like Eureka a little bit. This is a lot more fun and interactive than I thought, where, if you're used to Peloton or whatever, like if you're coming over from something else, a spin class, and there wasn't that competitive juices going quite as much, except for like so-and-so that you didn't know what they were doing next to you, but it looked like you were working harder than zippity-doo-dah, so, I think there's a lot more pull for sure. And I recently have experienced that again, coming back to, so it's just so much easier to jump on to get a good workout in when it's competitive rather than just slogging along doing intervals. So definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good thing. I think perhaps people need a bit of hand-holding and easing into the world of competitive Zwifting. And if these two things make it easier for more people to race, I think that's only a good thing, he said, sounding sanctimonious and priggish. Okay, well, let's stick with racing for a little while, and let's hear from Ashley Moolman-Passio, who with her team CC Live was the star of the Women's Tour for All race series. She lives just a few miles down the road from me, actually, in Girona, but obviously with things being how they are, I caught up with her over the interwebs. Well, welcome to the Zwiftcast to Ashley Moolman-Passio. Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Simon. Nice to chat.
Massive congratulations on the huge win in Tour for All.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was fun.
Well, I watched a couple of stages, and on one of them I saw you just rode away from the field. What the hell?
Well, I think I did have the advantage of having spent 7 weeks training solely indoors and on Zwift, and I think that definitely had a massive advantage. So I do recognize that indoor training is very different to outdoor training, and there's definitely, to be able to race really well on an indoor platform, you do need to spend a certain amount of time training on it.
In Zwift racing, right from the get-go, there has been, without any question, without any fuss, without any issue, complete parity between men and women racing. And that, of course, has meant parity in the broadcast of those races. And that's actually given women, female bike racing, ladies, whatever you want to call it, that has given it perhaps more broadcast time than ever before, really. I mean, do you see that as a big advantage for women bike racing?
I've seen firsthand, the advantage that's given us, or the boost that's given us. So I've seen a massive response in terms of, my social media and following. Actually the best response I've ever had in my career in terms of, just more followers on social media, more engagement, more awareness of who I am as a cyclist and what my strengths are, what female cyclists are capable of. So I recognized immediately that, mainstream media or mainstream exposure is the only way in which women's cycling will ever, really progress. If we can have parity in virtual cycling, at some point, I do believe that it will translate onto the road. And so, I definitely want to have embraced the opportunity that virtual cycling has presented for women's cycling. And actually kind of blew me away, to be honest, because it kind of feels a little bit strange that my avatar is more famous than I am. And I've been cycling for 10 years on the road. So it's a little bit weird. And I think it gives great opportunity to give the fans exposure to the inside of our lives, what our homes look like, what our pancakes look like, maybe little interview inserts with us, talking a little bit about, daily life and those type of things. So I think it's definitely can definitely complement road cycling in a huge way. Never replace it, but I do see it as complementary.
Yeah, well, I completely agree with that. How has team management capitalized, Ashley, on this upsurge in interest? I mean, is this something that team management is actively discussing?
Well, actually, if I'm totally honest, I think it's still somewhat overlooked, to be honest. So, they're kind of seeing it. Feedback is loud and clear, that they've had really good response to the virtual racing, that social media numbers were looking really good. And then I've also seen it from my own personal social media. So they do recognize it, but I think there's still a level of, it hasn't totally been embraced, by the road cycling teams. But I don't think that everyone has embraced it the way I have in terms of seeing a long-term future for it and a way in which it could complement road cycling into the future beyond the COVID pandemic.
Yeah. I think what you're trying to say is that you feel, as a professional road rider, that there really definitely is a place, even in season, even in the cycling paradise that is Girona, even in the perfect weather that we have a lot of the time, for indoor training, not as a second choice, but as a first choice. I mean, and again, not exclusively, but as a mixture. I mean, do you genuinely feel that?
Yeah, I genuinely feel that. So, as I said before, and that's the reason why a lot of road pros don't enjoy indoor training, is because it is hard. The reality is it is super hard, and it's different to road cycling. And so that's why I'd never really embraced it before, because, I always felt a bit deflated when I would get on an indoor trainer and I couldn't hold the same numbers that I would be able to hold outdoors. And somehow it just was that much harder on the muscles. So, recovery was longer. But, having been sort of thrown into the position where you either embrace it and make the most out of it, or literally you've got to take what ended up 7 weeks off the bike, I decided I'm going to make the most of my situation. And the first week was really hard on the muscles. If I'm totally honest, I really had to dig deep. Luckily my coach was pretty supportive, and he was also realistic. And he said to me, we need to drop your threshold power by about 20 watts, 25 watts, in the first weeks. Let's see how it goes. And let's drop your volume by 20 to 30%. And let's see where we go with that. And then the third week, I took a little bit of an easier week because I was really struggling. And then the fourth week, I suddenly really started to see results. So I started to see that my power was much better. I was starting to get closer and closer to my outdoor numbers. I think in the 5th week, I actually did a performance test and I saw an increase in my maximum power. I saw an increase in my VO2 max, because luckily we have the facilities to do VO2 max testing and some performance testing. So that again was reassurance that, okay, this is really doing good. You know, it might hurt and I might suffer at times, but it's worth the while. But Zwift racing is totally new, but I really threw myself into it, and okay, I suppose it helped that I won my first Zwift race. So suddenly I was like, okay, wow, this is quite fun. You know, one thing led to the next, and then I actually, after lockdown, after 7 weeks of training indoors and on the platform of Zwift, I went and did my best time up Rocacorba. So it really showed that the work that I'd done indoors did benefit the outdoor stuff as well.
Well, that's very powerful testimony, actually. It really is. I mean, we're still in this slightly weird period where there's no bike racing. Things are beginning to soften up here, and they're lifting the time restrictions on us next week, which I know hasn't applied to pros, but to people like me, that's a big deal. But we are still in this slightly weird period. I mean, obviously, by the sounds of things, you're going to continue racing on Zwift.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm hoping there'll be some more pro events for the road pros. So for me to be able to continue to race on Zwift means it's a bit of a challenge because CCC Live haven't entered a team.
It surprises me that CC Live have not entered a team. But have you any insight into why they took that decision?
Well, I mean, it's not really a big surprise. I suppose the only pro teams that have entered teams into the Pro-Am, so I'm talking only about the Pro-Am. So there's Pro-Am racing on Zwift, and then there's Pro racing, which was the Tour for All, but that was a first time, opportunity. It was really a first. So although I hope that continues for the pro teams into the future, it is only going to continue if there's buy-in, from all the teams to really accept that it is a good platform. So I'm really doing my best to play a role in trying to convince, my peers and the team owners and managers to see the potential of it. But so what I'm talking about is if that doesn't continue, if pro racing for the road pros doesn't continue on Zwift, then Pro-Am will kind of be the only opportunity for me to race on Zwift. If I'm totally honest, I don't really want to answer for the team before I've really had a proper discussion with them. I haven't actually really said to them, please, can you enter a team? I suppose maybe if I did, they might consider, but if I really look into my peers or my teammates within the team, I don't necessarily see that there's enough interest from my teammates at this point. So they need convincing, but maybe that's something that I should try.
Well, that's very, very interesting. Really interesting stuff and a very interesting conversation. Thanks very much indeed for your time, Ashley, and congratulations once more on an absolutely fantastic win and being a brilliant ambassador for women's racing on Zwift.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon.
Right on!
Well, as I said, Ashley lives just up the road from me here in Girona, where she runs a very good bike touring company, actually called Rocacorba Cycling, sited in a very, very beautiful building. And whenever people are able to get their bikes into a box and travel to other parts of the world, I would definitely recommend certainly Girona, for obvious reasons, and Rocacorba Cycling. A lot of my friends have stayed with her and had a really good time. So there we go. There's your free ad, Ashley. Now, one of our dear listeners asked very politely to explain in the next episode why I have been stranded in Girona these past weeks. As he asked so nicely, we're going to do this very briefly. I'm a bit sick of the sound of my own voice, so we're going to play a little game. You two, my much cherished fellow Zwiftcasters, are going to switch roles and be the interviewer. So, off you go. One question each, turn and turn. You have to get to the bottom of this important story. Now, remember the watchword or watchwords of Rudyard Kipling about being a good journalist and a good interviewer. I think it was his 6 serving wenches. Who, what, why, where, when, and how. Off you go. Shane, first question.
I'm a horrible interviewer. I work with technology. It never talks back, and it does exactly what I tell it to do most of the time. This is not a game I can play. Okay, so we've got to work out why you're in Girona.
Yeah.
Why that part of the world? I hear it all the time. It is so far from here. I've got no idea. I don't even know where Girona is on a map. I couldn't even point to it. But yeah, my first question is why Girona? Why that location?
Okay, well, my bad knee problem, if listeners remember that, it kind of focused my mind a bit about, as these things tend to do, about sort of big life decisions. And I'd planned, it was part of the life plan, I think, to be able to be in a position where I could spend a little more time in a place where it didn't rain a lot. So I've been on the lookout for the past few years about where that place might be. And I came here on a kind of boys' cycling holiday 2 or 3 times. And I just fell in love with the place, really. In terms of where exactly it is, to answer your question, Shane, it's in north east Spain, very close to the French border. We're only 60, 70k from the French border. And the next big town as you get further into Spain is Barcelona. So that's to locate it. Nathan, your question.
How often do you go to because you have a house there now, it sounds like, and
I
An
have
apartment?
an apartment here. Yeah, I bought a place and I grossly underestimated the amount of time and money it would need spending on it to bringing it up to kind of habitable standard. And I spent about a year doing that and more money than I'd budgeted for. But isn't that always the way? And the plan was, when the world was normal, that I would flit back and forth between here and the UK, because my wife is based in the UK and she has a job which means she can't be quite as flexible as I am about where I work. So the plan was, as you used to be able to do, you used to get on an airplane a bit like taking a bus, and 3 hours later you'd be back in the other place. But as we know, things are no longer like that, and that's thrown a bit of a wrench in my works. And that was how I came to become stranded here, because when the lockdown came down super fast and super tight in Spain, I made that fatal mistake of hesitating, and I wasn't quite sure what to do. I wasn't sure whether to jump on a plane, sit tight, do what. So in the end, I if in doubt, do nout, as they say in Yorkshire. So I did nothing and ended up staying here. And then it kind of became too late to get back. Don't know whether that was the right decision or not. I mean, the weather here has been fine. The lockdown in Spain has been perhaps tighter than the UK, so I would have been able to ride my bike outside a bit more in the UK. But whether I would have done, given the kind of the whole lockdown thing, I'm not sure. So I don't know whether I made the right decision, but by not making a decision, I made a decision and I ended up staying here. There we go. I think that's told the story, actually.
I think we did it. I think we did. We didn't have to ask much. You were just ready to say everything.
So you're a
Yeah,
brilliant
like-
interviewer. You twisted the questions around to your story. It was brilliant. That's exactly what
Yeah.
Which was great.
Natural politician.
I mean, all
natural
I said was,
politician.
well, you have a place there, right? And then boom, there you go.
I just interviewed myself.
Yeah,
didn't
that
I?
was
That's what
craftsmanship
happened
right there, Simon. That was brilliant. That was textbook stuff right there. And by the way, thanks for that. Our questions were pretty lame.
Yeah, they weren't very good, actually. Well, that was jolly fun. Time for a little more levity. The Thomas de Ghent tweet. We all saw this, right? Just in case some listeners didn't. Thomas, rapidly becoming a hero of mine, actually. Once got booted from a Zwift race for being too fast. He's obviously getting quite serious about racing on Zwift. He's fed up with cheaters. Or at least that's what we must infer when he said, it's easier to drop world-class riders in a Tour de France stage than win a Zwift race. That says it all. You've actually got to love Thomas de Ghent, Shane.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. They got a good response. It was taken in lightheartedness because it was true. It is so hard to drop anybody in Swift.
Yeah, but I mean, this is arguably the best breakaway rider in the world currently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know because there's no racing, but he is the breakaway king. So I thought his words had particular resonance. Nathan, are you winning a lot now with your newfound fitness, or your resumed fitness, I should say? I mean, you've always been a fit lad, but I know you've been concentrating a lot on it recently. Are you winning a lot, or are you suffering the same frustrations as our friend Thomas?
Yeah, at the higher end races, it's very difficult to win. I've got a lot of podiums recently, if I'm going to be kind of serious about it, I guess. But I'm doing the USA Cycling Series on Wednesday evenings. Last night I got second. The week before I got fifth. The week before that I got third. I'm like, it's like, and I'm kind of like, yeah, he was, because I interacted with him and he responded actually on Twitter, and like I was like, well, wait a second. And you know what did come out of that? There was a ton of thread. Well, there was one thread on Twitter and then one thread on Facebook in Zwift Racers, and the one on Zwift Racers kind of turned a little bit from being all about cheaters to being about, wait a second, what if this is just like the drafting algorithm needs to be looked at because it's impossible to break away? Like last night, real quick, Little Bunny Trail, we're going over the top of the Volcano Cum in the USA Cycling Series. I know if I just stay with the group, those 3 or 5 dudes I could bridge to right now will come back. I'm not bridging. I'm not wasting my energy on that. They just wasted a match that I'm going to beat them in the sprint for. And I beat all those dudes in the sprint because of it, mainly because that pack traveled way too fast downhill. And those guys putting out 6 watts per kilogram, we just did super tucks the whole way down. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's right. And his frustrations might also be not just cheating. He might just be like, I can't break away. And everyone's been saying that for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, it's true. No, it's absolutely, it is true actually, and sometimes just that fresh pair of eyes, and of course the authority he brings as well. He's almost again, best breakaway rider in the world. So, yeah, it did raise an interesting little debate. Okay, well, let's get on. Let's talk to Phil Ellison in line with this week's theme of what changes has lockdown brought. Not only have I got a triathlete on the podcast.
What?
I know. The world's gone mad.
People have been telling me to run and swim now too. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. No, sorry, I'm making it about me.
Triathlete on the podcast. I did check he was wearing socks because I told him, if he was going to appear sockless, that was just going too far. Anyway, he did have
I haven't
socks
been wearing. People on stream been yelling at me for that too. Something's happening here.
He did have socks on. I checked. Here's Phil. Welcome to the Zwiftcast to Phil Ellison. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Simon.
You are a triathlon coach. Just give us the 30-second version of the level of your coaching skills and experience.
I work sort of nearly full-time in the NHS as a lower limb extended scope physiotherapist. I've been coaching under the banner of Total Tri Training now for about 12 months. I was very lucky to achieve my personal goal last October and go to the World Championships for Triathlon in Kona. And after that, it was very much, what can I do now to help develop others and pass on some of the knowledge that I've gained over the last few years.
You got in touch with me, and the thing that really piqued my interest when you sent me a message was that you said that as a result of changes made to the way you train people on Zwift over the COVID crisis, will, as a result of that, make permanent changes to your coaching methods. Just give us a bit more on that. Phil, because I'm really interested in that.
Most of our athletes are fairly separated from each other. As a group of coaches, we tend to have quite a bit of contact with each other to help plan and schedule a year and what training blocks we're going to be running. And then it's kind of a very much an individual sport, and the coaching is very highly specific to those individuals. But obviously with the restrictions that have been enforced with the pandemic, we've had to change the way that we work, and we've very much seen it as a chance to build community and bring people together, not only to help with the triathlon performance, but I think to help with the state of mind and mental health and give them a regular contact point each day. So normally our workouts, particularly for the bike, would be uploaded to Zwift via Training Peaks. And we've continued to do this, but we've brought everybody together with regular coach-led sessions. So we've started to utilize a lot of the functionality of Zwift with the group meetups. And then we've loaded the workouts directly into those meetup sections. And then we've ran the workout together. And we've had 1 or 2 coaches on hand for each session, so that they've been on the Discord app to actually lead and coach the session. So it's a much bigger group environment, and the feedback from the athletes is that it's a hugely successful endeavor at the moment.
I guess the feedback you're getting from your athletes is that this probably, I'm guessing here, it'd be interesting to see if you confirm this, but it probably increases compliance, because it's easy to skip a session if it's just you. It's less easy to do it if you're with a bunch of other people.
Yeah, definitely. I think, again, from the triathlete's point of view, the training's quite all-consuming. You know, to fit in the 3 sports every week, and to fit that around work and family commitments, it's generally very difficult to be part of a club and actually to turn up at the times that you're expected to do. And obviously, group rides on the road and such are so difficult with the different levels of ability. So this has been really well received, and yeah, the athletes certainly seem to be very keen on the group situation.
I guess that when you said to me that this will, herald permanent changes to the way you work, I mean, I guess what you mean by that is that this